Hello again. Um, Part 4 of this story, of my story, is where I want to bring you an update of what's happened and to explain in detail what you need to do to free yourself of anxiety and panic permanently. Now, things have happened in the last year and a bit which totally altered my outlook on life and in a way put anxiety into proper perspective in my life. In May last year, early May, I suffered a slight stroke. Now, it didn't affect my mobility in that it didn't affect any of my limbs, my arms or legs or anything like that. It was very specific. What it did was to affect the movement of my eyes. In particular, my left eye wouldn't turn. It wouldn't turn to the right. It was stuck looking forward, which meant when I tried to turn my eyes to look at anything, I got overlapping double vision. And obviously, as you can imagine, that affected my balance. And my balance just was shot. I just couldn't navigate around. Now, when it happened, I was very frightened of it, obviously, because I didn't know what on earth was happening. And I ended up spending 4 days in hospital, and they established that what had happened. Apparently it involves a little blockage to one of the little veins at the back of my head, which govern the nerves which control your eye movement. Now, compared to what a lot of stroke victims suffer, I was very lucky that that's all that it did affect. But having said that, it made a huge difference to what I was capable of doing. Now, when I was in hospital, they gave me a special pair of glasses which I could wear, which blanked out the vision in one of my eyes, so I could just use one eye to look, which at least got rid of all the double vision. I could at least walk around and not bump into things or feel like I was falling over. But that was a real shock to me. It really did shock me, because I spent all these years in anxiety, but physically I was pretty sound. I had all the usual things that most people get, coughs, colds and flu and things like that. But this added a whole new layer, if you like, of fear to my life, because I'd had a stroke, and obviously, not just because of what doctors said, obviously I feared the possibility of getting another one and what that might do. But anyway, I got myself home again, and thanks to the help of my wonderful wife, I got myself mobile, and I used to go out. They insisted I get exercise and go out walking a lot, which is what I did. At first, just with the old special glasses, one of my eyes covered up, and I gradually gained confidence in being able to get myself out in the bed. Although obviously I couldn't drive for the duration. It's mandatory that you stop driving for at least a month after you've had a stroke of any kind. So that kind of limited what I could do. Now, the weeks and months that followed were very strange, because I had a totally new outlook. I had a particular thing which I had to deal with, a physical problem. And all the things that I'd been so upset about for so long, all those years, all the anxiety symptoms, suddenly they seemed unimportant, or I saw very clearly that I'd been getting everything so completely out of proportion that these stupid things had obsessed me so much that they'd become my life. That was what my life was, just dealing with fear. Now this had happened, and I had a whole new set of conditions I had to try and adapt to. So I started to make progress, and within about a month of my stroke, my left eye gradually got some movement back, and I was able to turn it to the right, which meant gradually I was able to use both eyes. I mean, I had to adapt by, instead of turning my eyes, I had to turn my head, do everything so that my focus stayed going forward. Even now, I still can't move both eyes that way to the right fully without getting an overlap. The two eyes still aren't synchronized. But the doctors and various people I saw said, well, you have a 50-50 chance of getting back proper use of your eyes in that respect, proper eye coordination. And, at the time they said that, I thought, well, it's a very depressing prospect. I'm going to be stuck like this now. But I thought, no, that's, it's a 50-50 chance. It means I can go one way or the other. And knowing some of the phenomenal things people have done who've suffered strokes and how they've recovered and got back pretty much to how they were, I thought, well, this is, compared to what they've done, this is quite a minor order, really. It's not going to be as impossible as I might think it was. So I worked on it, and things have improved, and I've managed to adapt what I do in many ways to this. Well, it is a disability because I still can't, do things without thinking like I used to, because my eyes still cause me to find the word destabilized around me, because my eyes still won't focus correctly when I look in different directions, which leads to a kind of a swirly sensation, not dissimilar from vertigo. In fact, if I do too much eye movement, that's exactly what happens. I do get, things start to revolve. Anyway, as I said, it did put a different spin on things as far as my anxiety was concerned. Now, things went on fine for some months. I got my eyes tested. The licensing people for the car asked me to have have a proper eye test, and my vision itself was fine. We went into last winter, and I was still making progress. But by then, I was beginning to get impatient. I'm not the most patient of people when it comes to these things, and I wanted to see more progress than I was actually making. I was still frustrated that my eyes still weren't. I still couldn't move them as I'd been used to. And gradually, during last winter and into this year, I started to get angry and frustrated, and then depressed by the limitations this was placing on me. There was still the determination that I was somehow going to get through this, and somehow I would be able to get myself back to how I was. But the stress of that and the worry about it, again, started to take its toll on my nervous system, and I found myself getting depressed and anxious and just generally dissatisfied, because I was whereas before I'd been limited by what my anxiety did to me, now this was limiting what I did. And the previous year I'd had to give up a lot of the work that I was doing. I used to work for myself in IT, and I couldn't go on sort of struggling along financially, so I thought, well, I've got to start making the effort to get out and about and do some work again. And I managed to get back some of my old customers, which, they were very helpful and very kind to me, and I told them what happened. But now, whereas before, I used to still suffer from anxiety, whatever I did, when I used to see my customers. And those wretched headaches, which I talked about in the last recording. But now I had this to contend with, and it used to be worse every time I used to go out anyway. But now I was trying to do things again, trying to get myself back to work, trying to do normal things. And this thing was actually becoming very, very difficult to handle, because every time I was out, I was trying to do work. My eyes wouldn't focus properly. My head used to be swirling all the time, and in many ways it was far worse than any of the anxiety symptoms that had, afflicted me in the previous years. And this went on, and I was doing little bits of work here and there, and nothing very much. And I was beginning to get back to the state where I thought I just can't face going out and doing things feeling like this. It's just getting too much. Everywhere I go, just to walk up the road to the corner shop, I was this sort of lightheaded, horrible. Everything around me just looked unstable, and I couldn't focus my eyes properly on anything, because every time I moved my eyes, it didn't work. The world around me was just unstable, for want of a better word. That's how it felt, and that's how it still feels. So gradually I got to a point where I was avoiding going out. I used to do everything I can to stop myself going out, but I thought, well, this is no good. This is not going to work. I can't go back to hiding away. I can't let this damn thing beat me. I have to get out there and do something about it. So, this year in particular, I've been doing my best to go out with all these horrible feelings there. Now this is going back to those concepts I talked about, Claire Weeks, the 4 concepts. And I'll talk more about that in a minute, but what I was trying to do was I realised what had happened during the time when I was getting all angry and frustrated about limitations of what I could do. I realised that in fact the eye movement issue was only a very, very small part of why I felt like I did. Felt so, lightheaded and horrible. I realised that the greater part of it was again back to the same old problem I'd had for so many years. It was over-breathing, hyperventilation. And I became aware on each occasion how automatically, every time I went out, I started to tense up against what might happen and how I was going to feel. Because some days going out, it felt like I was just going to keel over. I felt I was just going to topple over. That I was going to start walking and then whoosh, I'd be on the floor. It didn't happen, but that's exactly how it used to feel now. As you can imagine, feeling like that puts you off somewhat. But then I saw what I was doing to myself. I was breathing so fast, and it was the breathing so fast that was causing me to feel so lightheaded and weird. And it was so automatic. Every time I went out, the same reaction used to set in. So during the last few months, I've been trying to practice going out and be aware of my breathing. And I've had some really quite good successes in doing things, in spite of how I felt. And this process is continuing, and I know now that this is what I have to do. It's these 4 concepts again, these 4 very simple concepts which are the key to recovery. And this is what I'm having to do again with these new set of symptoms. And it's what I haven't done for the last 11 years, because certain things I just haven't felt able to accept. So I'm going to tell you a bit more about this, because this is what you need to do. And believe me, you might think there are quicker and easier fixes for your condition. There might be. There's medications you can take which control the way you feel. But if you want to be permanently rid of your anxiety and rid of your panic attacks, the only way is by doing these 4 things, and then to keep on doing them until you're finally free of the fear, until finally you lose your fear of fear, until it no longer matters to you. When you do that, even if you still get the symptoms, when you lose your fear of them, you're cured, because they can't affect you anymore like they used to. So this is how it's been with me. I've had to face up to what it was. That's the first step, facing. Face up to what it was that was causing me to be so frightened. So rather than going out the road to the shop and just trying not to notice how everything was so unstable all around me, instead of doing that, I've been observing myself. And like I said, I realised that my breathing was terrible. I was just like this all the time. I was out breathing fast, and of course that's one of the primary symptoms of breathing too fast is lightheadedness. And it was that. It wasn't my eye movement, it was my breathing that was causing it. So I've been going out, being aware of it, and then learning to gradually let my breathing slow down. So in other words, I faced it first, examined it, and saw what it was I was doing. And the next step is to accept it. Accept that I'm going to be like this for the moment, that the more practice I do in going out with all these feelings going on, and this is the key, realizing that the feelings themselves are harmless, and nothing's going to happen to me. That is what frightens so many people. They think, what is going to happen as a result of all these anxiety symptoms? I went out and did things, and I realised that even things that I wouldn't, before I'd had my stroke, things that I used to not be very keen on doing because of the way I used to feel, I started doing those as well, like driving longer distances. And so I was accepting them as best I could. Didn't every day, it wasn't the same every day. It was, some days were easier than others. When I got the symptoms when I was out, as well as accepting them, I kind of learned the third stage, which is floating through them. Instead of offering a tense resistance and struggling and fighting and trying to forget them, I just let my body and my mind kind of loosen and relax, and just let the feelings be there. Not try to change them, not try to run away from them or distract myself from them. Just let them be there and float through the moment. I think some people find this third concept quite difficult to do because they don't really understand what it is that you do. It's basically doing the opposite of what you normally do, which is to tense up and fight. Whatever your symptoms are, your instinct is to tense up against them, fight them, and try and stop them. Trying to make them go away by all sorts of different ways, means of doing. People use to do that. So they distract themselves. They try desperately to think of something else, or they just tense themselves up so much to think, I mustn't let this, I must get rid of this, I must stop this, whatever it is that you're feeling. That is our instinct to fight, but that is wrong. It just makes things worse. When you tense up, you're adding more fuel to the fire, so to speak. You're adding more tension. You're telling your nervous system that the thing that's happening, that it is producing itself, is something you fear, hate, and fear. And so, of course, your reaction feeds into the nervous system, which makes the symptom go on, and sometimes it makes it worse. You're creating a vicious circle where you keep refeeding the symptom by being so frightened and tensing up against it. What you're trying to do here is to reverse that cycle. So by letting the feelings come and not offering up this usual resistance to it, you're telling your nervous system that you're not that bothered. So the nervous system thinks, this person's not so worried about these feelings now, so perhaps I better turn the volume down, so to speak. I better, stop producing so many fear symptoms, because this person is not worried about it anymore, or not worried so much. And that's where you get out of the cycle and start to produce the positive cycle of letting things happen. And your nervous system, the more you do it, the more your nervous system backs down and starts to calm down. And that leads us on to the last concept, the letting time pass. This is very important because these things don't happen instantly. It has been known for them to happen instantly, but it's pretty rare. Basically, your nervous system took some time to get into a sensitized state, so it's going to take some time to get out of it again. And by doing the opposite of what it was that you did to get into that sensitized state, by doing the opposite, you gradually reverse the process and your nervous system calms down. This is what happened to me when I was first ill. I gradually calmed down, I had fewer symptoms, fewer frightening thoughts, and that reinforces itself as you see how that letting go attitude works. Now this is very, very important. You have to experience for yourself the direct effects of letting go, what they do to your symptoms. Once you actually really practice acceptance the right way, full acceptance, not just putting up with it, not just gritting your teeth and thinking, oh, I'm accepting this, I'm accepting this. Well, you're not doing anything of the kind. You're actually fighting it, struggling with it, trying to make it stop. When you are truly prepared to let it do whatever it wants to do, whatever it is, whatever the symptom is that you're getting, when you are willing to do that, this is when you see the effect of acceptance. Now, this is particularly true of panic attacks, and that's why I pointed you to Jeffrey Holmes and his wonderful book, The Panic Switch, because he did exactly that with his own panic attacks. And to his astonishment, he found when he truly gave up the fight and surrendered to whatever the panic was going to do, the panic just stopped. It switched itself off because he realized that it was his own fear of the panic that was keeping it going. And I can verify that as being true because I've done that myself. Quite a number of times I've had panic attacks and I've kind of just said, all right, go on, kill me if you want to, do whatever you like. And I've taken that approach to the panic and I've seen it sort of fizzle out in minutes, just literally fizzle out. And when that happens to you, it's incredible feeling because you suddenly find that here you have a solution. The thing that had controlled your life for so long, you suddenly unmask it for what it is. It's just fear of itself. And it's an incredible feeling when you actually have the courage to take that leap of faith and think, oh, to hell with it. I can't live like this anymore. Go on, just do whatever you want. And you mean it. You've got to mean it. You've got to really not care. When you do that, you'll be absolutely amazed how quickly the panic can just suddenly go. It just fizzles out. I mean, you're left with all the after effects of panic because panic uses a lot of energy, it drains you and tires you. But it dies away, and I've done that a number of times now. And when it happens, it's quite an astonishing feeling because you feel like you've got some control over it. That is the worst thing of panic in particular, is the fact that you feel you have absolutely no control over when it comes and when it's there. You feel you can do absolutely nothing. It's there and it's raging, and it feels like your body is just, out of control, and there's nothing you consciously can do to stop it reacting like that. So that's going back to letting time pass. You need time. Your body needs time. Your nerves need to calm down. You need to stop refeeding the anxiety with all your anxious thoughts about the way you feel. And over time, gradually, your nervous reactions calm down. Like I said, this happened to me, and I know it's a fact. I saw it happen when I was 18. I saw the way gradually all my symptoms faded away very slowly over about perhaps 2 months, I think, from when I was really at my worst to when I felt human again. But that was ideal conditions. I didn't have to cope with the normal stresses of living day to day that most people have to deal with. So now this is where I am today. I think I've got my head straight when it comes to dealing with my anxiety symptoms as they are today. 13 months on from my stroke, I don't consider myself cured yet. I still react to intensely to things. I know my nerves are still sensitized, and plus the fact there's still external stresses going on which haven't really changed much for a long time. But at least in my head, I'm beginning to see what I need to do in my own particular circumstances, which is to learn to go and do what I want to do, regardless of how I'm feeling. Just go and do it anyway. What have you got to lose? You don't have to be a prisoner to this thing. And that's what it is. You feel like your life is being held to ransom by fear and everything it restricts you from doing. And you live in this constant state of fear about what might happen to you. What might happen is just thoughts in your head. They have no basis in reality. They're just stupid thoughts that come as part of an anxiety state. They tell you no truthful message. And when you start to glimpse that fact, and that's another word that Dr. Weeks used to use, glimpse, it means seeing the truth of the situation, realizing that all the scary thoughts that are going through your head are not telling you the truth. They're simply a function of your anxiety state. They are your mind trying to solve the anxiety problem. Your body doesn't like being in a state of anxiety, so it's always trying to find a solution. It wants to find a way where it can restore itself to its normal, balanced, peaceful state. And all this thinking, with all the what-if thoughts, what if this, what if that, all this trying to analyze your situation is your mind and body's way of trying to figure out the reason for you being so afraid. And yet the reason for you being so afraid is the fear itself. That's the paradox. You're frightened of your own body and your own nervous system and the effects it produces. And to your nervous system, it doesn't distinguish, it just knows that you're afraid, and it's trying to help you and find you an answer, and it's trying to protect you because you keep telling it you're in danger. So all the thoughts that go on and on and on and goes through your mind endlessly like a recording that just won't stop. All this, as you learn to reverse the cycle by accepting it all as best you're able. When you finally learn that, as time goes on, you see the effects of this approach, how it affects you physically. You find that the symptoms gradually start to lessen, they come less often. And as you actually see how acceptance works, this is the secret. You have to experience it. You might understand it perfectly well in your head, but you have to physically experience it. That is the trick. You have to, then you start to develop faith and belief in it because you've seen it work. It's not just hoping it'll work, it's knowing it will work because you've felt it happen to yourself. And that's what I was talking about with panic attacks. Once you do these things, you realize that you've found your way out. And the longer you keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and you eventually reach a stage where all this stuff just doesn't matter a damn anymore. All this fear and your obsession with the feelings of fear. Finally, you get to a point where you don't care. You just don't care about it anymore. And at that point, you won't just think you're cured, you will know you're cured. because your fear of it is gone. And when the fear of it gone, there's nothing there to stimulate it, nothing there to make it happen. The fear of the fear is what feeds the whole thing. And with that fear of fear gone, what is there? There's nothing left. Yes, of course you're going to get stress symptoms. Everyone, while they're alive, will get stress symptoms. But now it's going to be a different thing, because you won't, when you're desensitized through using this approach, you'll be able to cope with stress a lot better, because you're familiar, so familiar with what the feelings are like. And then it'll be realistic stress. It'll be through some external situation or something that's happened, but you'll be able to cope with it. And I say this particularly to younger people who are suffering from anxiety, because I knew I was in my teens when I first had it, and I know at that age how it felt like my life was falling apart, and I know how devastated I was by it. So I say to you, especially for you young people, if you're in this state, please don't look for shortcuts. If you want to be rid of this thing forever, yes, it's doing it the hard way. It's facing, accepting, floating, letting time pass. It's doing it the hard way, but doing it that way means that you're doing it for the rest of your life. You'll be permanently free of it. And that will give you a strength and a confidence that you wouldn't get any other way. And your contemporaries who have never suffered like this, they won't have that strength that you've got. So see it through, and it'll be a strength in years to come. So please, don't give up. Don't ever give up hope. Use this approach, and it'll work for you. And you'll get your life back, and it'll be a better life than the one you had before. You'll have a confidence and a compassion and a gratitude to life once you come through this that you wouldn't get any other way. So I should do another recording soon, because I want to not just tell you of how things are progressing with myself, but I also want to explain things like all the many different physical symptoms that people get. Now, there's a ton of information about this on the internet, obviously, but there are many aspects to the physical symptoms of various illness, as Claire Weekes calls it, anxiety, that don't get talked about much. There's all these subtle effects that can be just as frightening as the more definite feelings of anxiety. So I want to spend a bit of time talking about those, because if I explain those to you, and if you've been worried and been searching the internet and Googling everywhere trying to find out what it is that you're feeling and whether it's significant or not, I hope that I can explain the reasons you get these feelings, and hopefully let's stop you worrying so much about it. Because I've been through so many years of this. I pretty much had all there is to have when it comes to anxiety feelings. So thank you for watching this, and I hope it's going to help you find your way out of this, because that's why I'm doing this. I want people to trust this approach as being the best and the most permanent and effective way to recover. So please, try it out. Find out what you can. Get the books of Claire Weekes. Find out about David Johnson's wonderful Freedom from Fear recovery program, and you'll have all your answers then. All the questions you've asked will be answered by Claire Weekes and David Johnson, because they knew what they were talking about. And then at long last, and in this hellish state you've been in for however long it's been, you'll actually feel a bit of hope. And you'll feel that, yes, maybe I can recover. Well, you can. And we'll do it together, because I'm getting out of it too. I'm getting too old for this stuff now. I'm not going to waste any more of my life on it. So you can do the same. wherever you are in your life, you can do the same. So, till next time, thank you for watching, and take care.